Would you like to turn this little pot into this lovely pot? That's what we're going to do today, and we're going to use some acrylic paint and a paper napkin to do it. This paper napkin is from NinnysNapkins, and it's a really pretty one. And as you can see, it's got lots of little things that we can separate and cut out in order to get the design on this. And the name of the napkin will be up on the screen, and you can get this napkin from NinnysNapkins, and below in the description there will be a link and a discount code for you. Step 1, we're going to paint the bottom of the pot with white acrylic paint. I just use a filbert brush to do that, and we just cover the whole area below the rim. As you can see, it's not real even. You can see the brush strokes and the pot through it. So you'll need more than one coat to get this a nice even coverage. Now I'm going to use a sponge, and I've chosen the finer one of the two, to give the last coat on the pot. This gives it a slightly textured finish, but not too rough, and it gives it an even all over white finish. We're now going to separate all the pieces of the napkin that we want to use on the pot, and I'm just using a size 2 liner brush and water. I hold the napkin on the edge that I'm going to be keeping and pull slightly, and it comes away quite easily. I usually cut out more than I need, but you're better off having more than you need, because then you can manipulate things to fit the area that you want. There's an awful lot of white hanging off the edge, so I've gone back with a liner brush and I'm just relieving those pieces of the excess white paper. The method I'm using today to get the napkins onto the flower pots is what I call the water method. And what I do is I take a piece of plastic and I spray water onto that plastic, and then I put the napkin down right side facing down, and I spray water over that so that the napkin is completely saturated and floating in a puddle of water. And then I take a soft bristle brush and I just pat the napkin in order to get all the air bubbles out, completely out of that napkin from underneath. And if there's a lot of excess water on the plastic, I then tip the plastic up and let the water run into a little pot at the side, and then I turn the plastic over so that the back of the napkin is facing the pot, and I put it onto the pot and I push it all over and make sure it seals to the pot surface. Now this gives it a very smooth surface. The napkin looks like it's almost part of the pot. You can't feel any ridges or bumps really at all. The napkin is sitting completely smooth against that pot. I rub the plastic all over to make the napkin adhere to the pot, and then I peel up carefully to ensure that the plastic doesn't peel that napkin off again. And then I come back with that soft bristle brush and I just carefully spread everything out and make sure it's sitting completely flat. In this way I end up with a really smooth finish to my pot. There's no ripples, there's no bubbles, there's no creases. This is probably the best method I've found for getting a very smooth finish to your paper napkin. It works well with small pieces. I can't imagine me doing this with a whole napkin or even half or a quarter of a napkin. It needs to be done with smooth pieces. And you'll find when you're looking at this that sometimes the napkin seems to move easily, and that doesn't worry me because the napkin is actually floating in water at that stage, and therefore it just which means when it's floating too, it's easy to get it to sit flatter if it's folded under or wrinkled or anything. And then you know, you just place your pot down and you spray your pot first before, so that the surface of the pot is really wet, so that when you put that napkin down there's still a little bit of maneuverability, and you just push all the water out from underneath the napkin, and then peel, as I said before, peel that plastic back. And then if you've got wet fingers, you can dab it with wet fingers or a wet paintbrush to get the napkin completely smooth on the pot. Now we're going to glue the napkins to the pot once we've used the water method to get them firmly on the sides and sitting down really flat. I start with a watered down mixture of Mod Podge. The reason I wanted watered down is because it's a thinner consistency and it will soak through the napkin onto the pot. And I also not only go over the napkin, but I go over the whole white area so that every bit is covered with the glue, and it gives it a consistent look. And then once that's dry, you come back with a colour that goes well with that napkin, and I'm painting the rim. Now the rim, I paint the under part of the rim first by turning the pot upside down, going round that edge, and then I turn it over and I'm doing the side of the rim, as you can see, getting a good thick coverage there. I think I go over that about twice in order to make sure it's an even coat. And I also do the top of the rim, but that's an optional extra. You don't have to do that top bit there. It's up to you. Some people go down inside to that first bump inside. As you can see, there's a ledge there. Some people paint down to that ledge, but I like some terracotta showing. The next thing I do with this pot is I add some brown bits. I've got a little bit in the air that doesn't quite reach the flower, so I extend the stem, and in a couple of the other large orchids I extend a stem so that it doesn't look like it's sitting in mid-air, and then where there's brown bits on the other stems I go over with this particular brown so that it all matches. I couldn't get a brown to match what was already in the napkin, so I just chose to cover up the brown that was already there and add the brown bits where needed. Now here's the pot finished, and the last thing I would do, and I'm not showing it in this video, is to either pick a matte or a gloss sealer to go over the top of that, and I would coat it inside and out, and that would protect the napkin and the paint. The other thing is this is an inside pot. Unless you've got an outdoor sealant, I would keep this indoors. Check out my other napkin videos that are appearing on the screen now. You might find some more interesting projects to have a play with.